together as far as individualism, capitalism, democracy, which we ain't even gonna get into that because
meritocracy,
consumerism, all of that, and then it just goes back to those in their natural order, which upholds the relationship with racism. It essentially goes back to that. And how and she got so deep with this, I was like, I have to put the book down for a second. Talked about even though we had people like Obama, Clarence Thomas, which
they knew their place,
and Colin Powell, they supported the status quo and didn't challenge racism because they weren't threatening.
Right.
Threatening, So that's why they were okay initially with Obama being elected, because they're like, okay, he's a figurehead. He has no power, and now they throw it in our face. Oh, you had the black man in there. Everybody's equal. You can be president, when that's really not the case, because nothing about the status quo was challenged when he got elected or when those people were appointed, to those positions. It's still, the natural order is still upheld, basically.
Right.
Well, I think the disappointment in that was people were really expecting him to challenge the status quo, and to be honest, the status quo, it would take more than one multiracial man in 4 years to try to overturn anything.
They knew what was going on. They knew that people were paying attention to the presidential election and not to the House and the Senate.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna get him in there, but he still ain't gonna get anything at the regardless.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I just
talk about that too, saying that because there are so many people with this white fragility complex that, like you said, it still would take legislation in order for things to change. Like, and even she was talking about how people think that because the old ideas would die off with the older people.
No.
Still not the case.
Those numbers were interesting.
It's so deeply embedded, period. You look at when she was talking about the numbers and the control
of
over everything. And I'm gonna go back to it because I do want to, just for people who don't have the book. But, so when we were talking about, she's looking at the 2016-17 numbers. 10 richest Americans were 100% white. 7 of them are among the 10 richest in the world. U.S. Congress, 90%. U.S. governors, 96% white. Top military advisors, 100% white. President and vice president, 100% white. U.S. House Freedom Caucus, 99% white. The presidential cabinet, 91% white. People who decide what TV shows we see, 93% white. People who decide which books we read, 90% white. People who decide which news is covered, 85% white. People who decide which music is produced, 95% white.
Whoa.
People who directed the 100 top grossing films, 95% white. Teachers, 82% white. Full-time college professors, 84% white. And ownership of professional football teams, 97% white.
Who is surprised by those numbers, though?
No, I'm not saying that we're surprised by it, but that's my point. Like, it's so deeply embedded.
It's still hard to hear.
Nothing is going to change.
Nothing is going to change.
For legislation.
Because they've had generations. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. Because the people with the money have the power.
Yeah, they've had, like, I think Jessica was going to say that. They've had generations and generations of a head start.
Right.
And they've had an agenda and a play at work. And so for us to get into that and see what that is and unravel it, that's not going to be instant, you know.
Right.
I remember it was years ago. I went to some little poetry event in Berkeley at this little Hispanic art center, and Amiri Baraka was there, and he was giving a talk. And he started talking about slavery. And he started saying, you know, your own hand sold you too. Like, don't sit back and think that it was just all that the evil whites came and got you. Like, you were somewhat complicit in this. And so there were people in the audience getting upset. But then what stuck with me is he's talking about how long we were enslaved, like over 400 years. He was saying it might be painful, but that's not much
Taylor,
time.
I'm gonna mute you for a second because it's the background kind of loud.
Who, me? Oh, let me try to shut the door. I'm sorry. Hold on.
But he was saying that, in the whole scheme of things, that this isn't a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes we think that things aren't going to change or there's nothing we can do. But I think that it is changing. I don't think that this was their plan in terms of bringing us to America and what was going to happen here and how important we were going to be to the country and to the economy, and maybe in terms of turning it around. But it's not going to be overnight or even in a few hundred years. If you think it took us 400 years to get here to the point where we were going to be free, then it's going to take a minute.
You know what really surprised me?
But that's it's not very comforting at all, though, to be like, yeah, I'm still gonna die, and my children are gonna die, and their children are gonna die, and it's still not gonna be what we need it to be.
You're gonna take steps to bring it back, and I think that there's greater value sometimes in the things of having struggle,
right,
strife, and authentic life. I think that there's so much more value in that than just having of course we want everything to be more equal to people to have opportunity, but it's just like the spoiled kid who doesn't appreciate what they have, as opposed to the person who really appreciates, like in the Count of Monte Cristo, he appreciates his little toy more than his friend, the Count's son, appreciates his new pony.
Right.
So, when you're born into wealth and privilege, he talks about that in the book, like Bill Gates' son, or these people that just get born into, just all of this opportunity. It's not going to be fair and equal when we have such a ways to go in that way. But I think we have a lot more in other ways.
But
it's good that you pointed out, because she was talking about how our social movements are co-opted by people like that.
Oh yeah.
By people with money. Essentially, it went back to how all of these sports teams were suddenly jumping on board with social justice and racial equality, but it wasn't because that's what they were interested in. It was because
money.
It was incentive, right? Money incentive for them to be our allies in sports. And that's
the same
movement.
The same reason why the boycott was stopped. They didn't get a change of heart and say, oh, let's let them sit where they want to sit. They were losing money, and that's why we try to promote that now. Like, we are the spenders. We can make noise by withholding our money, but we can't come together, on that power. But we have power, but we can't come together in using that. And that goes back to the Willie Lynch book that we read, how all of these divisions are created to prevent us from being that powerful source.
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think somewhere kind of a trick, like I think about even in terms of like purchasing brands, like if you were to want the best perfume you might want to buy for yourself, or a purse or jewelry. And I saw a lot of these famous bloggers coming out after the Black Lives Matter thing blew up more about supporting Black businesses and things like that, kind of like a fad.
Yeah.
And so I
That's
thought,
bring your money here.
yeah, and I think it's really interesting that we don't have more in that way in terms of, where that's your option to go to buy a Black product. And we have more of it now, but you know what I mean? I think once there's more of it to where that's our go-to to invest our money in a company that represents us or that it represents diversity, that's, I think, can help be positive change.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
It's so much to.
I know.
It is. So she said
What you about to say?
Somebody was talking.
Taylor.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying she said that they can't move forward for being comfortable. Like, who wants to make themselves uncomfortable? If I know I have all of these privileges, you don't have to tell me that. I mean, I don't see nothing being done about it. If I know that I got a privilege of not worrying about, like she said, looking at like the one that's the dangerous ones. I mean, they got so many privileges. Why would the progressives want to mess up their privileges? So, I can see how they're not going to be uncomfortable. What she said, the white progressives, they are really part of the problem. because they're comfortable.
Right, they're comfortable. But so many more of them are comfortable than us that they really don't. They can't feel it, you know. And I think, and not that I want that to happen, but the only thing that would make them feel it is if there was some kind of a backlash.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they felt threatened. You know, they act like they do, but they don't really feel threatened. You know, and so you don't.
No.
And it's also because a lot of the openly racist people have infiltrated the so-called progressive ranks. And she touches on that when she was talking about, it's on page 32, when she was talking about how Derek Black, who was the godson of David Duke, was saying,
yes, the white nationalist group.
Right. You can run as Republican and say things like, we need to shut down immigration, we need to fight affirmative action and end globalism, and win those positions and not get outed as a white nationalist. So a lot of that is embedded within that progressive movement as well. It's like, I'm not racist. I didn't say the N word, or, you know, I didn't say to go back to Africa. But essentially, you're saying it with
your policies.
Right. And even with the Southern strategy, and you know your president loves to talk about Ronald Reagan's presidency so much, but they quoted it. Well, she quoted it perfectly on page 33 when she said, "You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1950, you can't say nigger because that hurts you. It backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights. You get an abstract talking about cutting taxes, talking about economic things, and then it's a byproduct where the blacks get the worst end of it than the whites, right? And then he talked about it specifically. He said, getting coded. You're doing away with the racial problem, and you're being more abstract than saying the word nigger, basically. And that's essentially what they've done. Make America great again. That's the most coded phrase.
Yes.
Ever.
Oh my God. Right. Right.
Basically saying we want to go back to good old days. You know? But people who support President Trump will be quick to tell you, oh, I'm not racist. He's not racist. He never said or done anything racist. But it's the illusion of progressive mentality.
It honestly shocked me.
Essentially.
How many people stood up for him not being racist, black and white initially.
Oh.
And I was like, did you just hear what he said? That was when he was being blatant about it.
And it goes further. Yeah, it's his policies as well. I mean, did you not just see the whole housing issue when he told the white suburban moms that they would be safe because affordable housing in their neighborhood?
Oh, wow.
You know, how much more obvious can you get? But that's the other thing. And we even had that recently with the vote for the city commission, where they had the petition going around because they didn't want people on South 6th Street. Or is it North 6th Street? So I get the directions mixed up. But they didn't want them there. But the words that they used were low income housing. Our housing values will drop.
Right.
You know, crime. That's essentially saying that without saying.
Right.
Right.
What do you think about how she's talking about the racism, which we're talking about, racism and adaptability, and going back to your president when he said, I'm the least racist person ever, versus I'm not racist versus I'm anti-racist.
I'm the least racist person. Wow.
I'm not racist. No, he didn't say that. I'm the least racist person. Or he didn't say I'm anti-racist.
I mean, it's just amazing how bold people can be today and people still don't call it for what it is. And even when it's subtle, like she was saying, like people say now, oh, you know, like this generation, like I've experienced that too, even back in college. Okay, so I went to college in 2009, and I didn't even know there were still segregated towns until I met some people who were from those segregated towns, and I was like, really? Even in 2009?
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, racism hasn't gone anywhere.
No.
And so in our generation and the ones below us have to realize it's still not gone anywhere. It's just learned how to hide itself a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And even
That's what she
when
said.
and even when we see it, it's just like now we're too afraid to call it out for what it is because there's so much backlash for everything you do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Everybody's quick to
It's
say something but not do anything.
seems like it's just so much more institutionalized. Like, I feel like there was an excitement, not that I wanted to be in that time, but an excitement around the civil rights in terms of just the obvious ridiculousness of what they were doing and saying this is wrong and we deserve, to vote, to be able to live in certain areas, to go to the same schools. And now it's just like, well, we're not racist. We know that's wrong, but we still don't want to hire you. We still want all our companies to be promoted or run by, whites. It's a much deeper fight in terms of that's why I like this book, in terms of getting into their psyche. We don't need to keep analyzing ourselves. Let's analyze you guys some, because
exactly. That's true. And at first I was like, I don't know if I want to read this, but now I'm like, yeah, definitely. And Kayla, that's why I was doing all the quoting, because this discussion ain't about us. It's about them.
Yes, I mean, when she say we, she's talking collectively, which you said is the first challenge, because they so individualized. Like, we, what do you mean? That's not me, So
it's them. Like, I want our white counterparts to watch this and hold themselves accountable for
they're often in the
what she turned.
They have the access. They have
for me, her honesty is just refreshing though. Like, just hearing her admit this stuff, like, it's the stuff that we already know. But having her do the research and kind of break it down and really talk about the things that they talk about when we're not around, it's just, to me, it's refreshing.
Right.
It's like, okay, we already knew this, but.
And she called out the aversive racism too, which is what you find every day on Facebook.
Oh,
yes.
I love the quote in her book. I think it was in one of the earlier chapters where she says, we cannot understand modern forms of racism if we cannot or will not explore patterns of group behavior and their effects on individuals.
White solidarity.
Right. And so they all move with that, and I think that it is refreshing just to reiterate that, to see someone looking at them as a collective.
Right. And that's why, like you said, Trump speaks to their fear and to them wanting to protect their privileges, so that's what he speaks to in all this coded language that's really not so coded anymore. It's become, pretty blatant now and bold. Right.
Yes. Like the sheriff, wasn't that the sheriff in Kenosha? He said that they should be all locked up in a warehouse, keep them from having 8 or more babies. It's like he actually said this on national TV. It was a sting operation on people were stealing, I think, out of Walmart, and it was like 4 black men, and I think it was either a mixed girl. It was more predominantly black, and the black men what stood out to me when he said keep them from having 8 or more babies. I think he said from different women, but that's the mentality that they have of us.
That wasn't even Kenosha. That was Griffin, Georgia.
No, that wasn't Griffin.
I'm talking about that happened in Griffin, Georgia. Like, this is not far-fetched. We actually had a real meeting where it was the crime task force, where this was stated, that the chief of police, who is the current chief of police, stated that single mothers were a problem in the city of Griffin. And I lost my shit. That meeting would tell you I lost my shit. So I was like, hey, single mothers, can you clarify that, please? What does that have to do with anything? And why are you attributing that to crime as a condition. Please explain
Right.
that. Well, what? I mean, I'm a single mother. What are you talking about?
Well, they're using this, right. They're using the statistic that more crime comes from homes that are in a one-parent home than not.
Exactly.
But
the same reason.
Why is there more
attribute it to us?
Right, but you got to look at the underlying reason, which is institutionalized racism. I mean, you created the system, mass incarceration. I mean, bringing drugs into the home, bringing social, and I have nothing against social programs, but in the day, like if you get help from the government, you can't have the man in the home. You gotta hide his shoes.
Exactly.
They created this to have the single mom. You know what I mean?
And I essentially told him that, and this was in their actual strategic planning work. And I went in so hard that they completely wiped it out. They were like, okay, we just delete that. That's what you don't have to do. And
they don't care.
Make the argument now. You talking about our neighborhoods being bad. What about y'all? It's more dangerous for us to go to a white neighborhood. I mean, look at Trayvon Martin. Look at Ahmaud Arbery. Look at the young lady that car broke down and she went to knock on this white man's door and he just shot her without even question. Like, it's more dangerous for us to be in y'all neighborhood than it is for y'all to be in our neighborhood.
Yeah, I wrote that down. I don't understand why whites are so fearful of us when it's always been them who has attacked us and killed us. Like, how did we develop this opposite when we have always been the victim of, you know what I mean? But now we're the ones that we have more violence against ourselves because it's more of a social economic thing rather than a color thing. You know what I mean? So it's like, why we looked at it as, I get fearful now because when I saw some white men in a truck and I have road rage, but I know these people are crazy. And so I, think twice about beeping my horn. Now, I saw a truck full of white boys that rode by me and my daughter and they looked intimidated. I was scared for my life as a Black woman in 2020.
Right. And it's true. When I did the discussion with Chris Benton yesterday, which I'm going to post soon, it was actually really, really good.
Nice.
He talked about how he's pushing for more Black people to own guns. And he's a white man. He's like, you can't pick and choose. And we were talking about the NRA, like, you can't pick and choose who you want to support with the Second Amendment. Like, you support it all or you don't support it, right? Because then you're only favoring the others. But he's like, I'm a huge proponent, and I'm pushing that now. But I'm also going to post that information for how they're helping Black people with gun ownership and
get them right,
going through the process with them getting their concealed carry licenses, and also for actually taking them out to the gun range and showing them the proper way to handle and use a gun. So, I mean, we're the ones that should be fearful at this point. I mean, when's the last time you heard about a whole group of Black people getting together and stringing somebody up in a tree or burning a cross in somebody's yard?
Just heard that recently. There's a Black guy got done that.
Right. When have we ever perpetuated that type of terrorism to people?
To buildings.
Honestly, even with the gun thing though, that's kind of scary because
I think Jessica was saying something.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was saying honestly with the gun thing though, that's kind of scary because I don't know what a few months ago, I don't know what had happened, but my mom came home and she was like, "Come here, let me show you how to use this." She went to the pawn shop and got a gun with the help of my cousin. Like he went with her to the pawn shop, showed her which one to get and whatever. And so she was showing me how to use it. And she was like, it was a line wrapped out the door to every pawn shop she went of Black people going in there to buy guns. Like, and I mean, I'm very happy that we're protecting ourselves.
But it is scary.
But it's scary because we don't have the same legal privilege. We do, but we don't have the same benefit of the doubt. When we, like, literally, I saw a video years ago where a white boy and a Black boy were friends, and they both had, like, these guns around their neck. and it was legal to carry a gun, or whatever, in that state, like, or whatever. So the white boy walked down the street first. Cop car passed him, nothing happens. He just walked down the street, blah blah blah, nothing. So later, the black boy does the same thing. 2 cop cars pull over. I'm talking about guns out already, telling him to get down to the ground, all of that. And I'm like, why do we not have the same privileges, the same legal rights, even though we're citizens?
You're right, because the last time they even did anything as far as gun reform was when the Black Panther Party was active. And we know why that was the case. But when you talking about all of this that's happening, and I was just looking at one of the posts. I think it was the of course, I'm not a member of the Spalding County discussion page, where people send me stuff from there all the time. But these fools post talking about don't we need to be thinking about how we're gonna protect ourselves election night? And it's what do you mean? Nobody attacked you when Trump got elected. We're the ones need to be worried that y'all gonna go batshit crazy because the man.
Yoshunda, I had to get off of that page because I would feel acid in my stomach every time I went onto that page. I had
Me
to get
too.
off.
Me too.
I never joined. People were sending me stuff from, but I never joined.
We had to remove myself too.
We got attacked on election night when Obama was elected. That's
what I'm talking about. Nobody is doing that to them. It's
exactly
doing it to us. Yeah, it's just weird. It's crazy. And then when she talks about how perceptions of criminal activity are influenced by race and essentially constructed by white people. And she talks about how white people perceive danger simply by the presence of Black people. And it explicitly states, we, as in white people, cannot trust our perceptions when it comes to race and crime. But yet, who are the majority of the people in the police departments and sheriff departments that are interacting with Black people?
White men.
Right. But y'all can't be trusted when it comes to your perceptions of race and crime. So how does that work?
It doesn't. That's why we arguing for police reform.
That is exactly why we're in the situation that
right
now from the get-go. Exactly the reason. Monique.
Hey.
Girl, you've been quiet this whole time. I almost forgot you. You've been this quiet ever.
Well, no, I was just listening to other opinions. Because I read it, but that's the stuff she's saying and stuff I've been talking about.
Yeah.
I'm Black, nobody listens.
Yeah.
So a white woman gets to say it and people listen. Like, I wasn't low-key irritated, but it's just like, I mean, this is what we know.
And that's why I said,
we know I'm Black. I know this. I had to mingle with them. I have to deal with them. I've learned how to infiltrate and handle them to get what I need. Like, this is what we know. Why are we still talking about it? Like, even how she even talked about certain things. Girl, hush, we know that. I don't know what you're going to do about it.
But that, when she said that the expectation that people of color should teach white people is another aspect of why racial innocence that reinforces several problems. That's not true. They're not going to listen to us. They haven't been listening to us. That's so
why are we? I'm not teaching you shit. It's not my responsibility. You abuse me and then tell me to tell you why you abused me.
If we looked at as inferior, they're not gonna accept what we gonna teach them anyway. So that don't even make sense. Like, we can't teach y'all nothing.
We're not even seen as inferior. That's the funny part about it. Because if we were so inferior, they wouldn't spend most of their time knocking us down.
Right.
Right. Well, we know that.
She did state it wasn't our job to have these conversations. That's on them.
She's still having the conversation. Why are we still talking? Like I was saying last month, why are we still talking? What are you going to implement? You know, it's like when we go to school, you learn, okay, when I was in high school, I learned some stuff. I got to college and repeated high school for like another 3 years.
Right.
Why are we still going over the same stuff?
The same thing. It's not on us. It's on them.
Because to me, like this book and all that other stuff, when this blew up with the, oh my God, now let us be allies. It's just a way of creating a whole bunch of band-aids and saying, let's have a conversation and get emotional. And now you can say, now I see. Okay. But what are you gonna do after that? I think like earlier somebody was saying like it might have been you, Yoshunda. Who would give up their privilege?
Yeah.
If you gave it to me, I'm gonna be looking at you like, oh, I got compassion, but I'm not giving that up.
I'm not finna become uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I don't care what you say and whatever you do, I'm not giving that up unless you can compromise with me to where I still feel great or better. I'm not giving that up. I just feel like this whole thing is an issue of let's sit down and at least say we talked about it so they can stop saying we haven't talked about it. And then we're just going to keep going on.
You know, there was a part in the book where she was talking about Jackie Robinson, and she was like, you know, it was worded as him breaking barriers, but it wasn't worded as Jackie Robinson was finally allowed to come play with the leagues of baseball, because what she said about that part was true was, yeah, he couldn't have stepped foot on that field without being arrested beforehand. They had to come get him. They had to allow him in. But she was like, you also have to give credit to the white allies who kind of helped pave the way for him or something like that. I'm like, why should I? Like, I don't, why, but they weren't even doing it for the right reasons for the most part. Probably it was just, like y'all say, economic reasons, monetary
always
reasons. Yeah. I just don't understand, why do we have to give credit where credit shouldn't even have to be due? Like, you did the right thing for the wrong reasons, but I mean, I don't know. It was just weird. I was like,
it's something you should have been doing. Like, why is this even a conversation that we have to have? And we keep having, like Monique said, we have to keep having the same conversation over and over again.
No, seriously, like this book, I'm gonna read it to the end, but like until we figure out money talk and we find a way to either get our own economic system or you're in a position where you can write a check, they ain't gonna be listening to anything. They just
they're not gonna listen to us. Then we were talking about that before we started the chat about, you know, the black people purchasing the land and how they getting so much backlash from the white people. And I said the reason why is because they didn't get to it first.
Right.
And the way things are going, before they really start building, they need to go ahead and form a militia or police force, because they're likely to come in and burn it down.
Oh, you're talking about the 19 family? Okay, even with
in
that,
Georgia.
we're gonna move out there. I ain't trying to be funny. I'm happy for them that they bought it, but I'm looking like at all places. That's what you bought. I mean, maybe they could change it, but I don't see it as a good move.
You can't have it both ways, Monique. You can't say they need to go buy the land, then you go say
now Megan is
what I'm saying is you're going to be strategic. Okay, first of all, it's called Toomsboro, and then you see the things that are around it. It's not even close to where you can be like, we have access to things. Like, that is somewhere where you truly are got to build a Black Wall Street. Like, you truly are going to have an economic system. I'm not trying to be funny. Like, I'm being
Is that
real.
what they're trying to do, though?
Yeah, they're doing an agricultural and commercial system within the community.
No, they bought the land. You got to have that plan before you even get there. You just can't be smiling and taking pictures and be like, we're going to start a city. No, like, you need to already have where, at the end of the day, they got to ask the government, can they have a government? At the end of the day, you got to ask the Federal Reserve, can I have a bank? You don't have a bank in place. You don't have bankers. You don't have stockbrokers. You don't have someone who can open up a clinic who's a doctor. You just 19 families who bought Toomsboro with no access to self-sustainability.
But do you think it's a start to something?
No.
I mean, the article said that they were gonna support themselves.
The climate change that we're in right now. We're in a climate change where I was talking to somebody today about real estate, for instance. They're investors quietly buying properties, not even land. Like they're buying properties. They're making communities that are totally like for rent. They're buying like portfolios with several houses and small areas, including Griffin. You know, I be in these areas. I'm like, these people don't even know they're being bought from other people. And then they're waiting to gentrify. They have so much money.
In the plan for 20 years now. They're strategic
20 years. And it's being activated now. It took 20 years, but it's being activated now.
Right.
There's going to be people who are going to be sitting there, and they're like, we've been in this house forever. Then all of a sudden, at the end, they're going to be like, we got to put you out, because all of a sudden now, you're going to want to, the slumlords are going to redo those houses, and you're going to see white people walking down Hill Street.
I've been talking about this for forever with the city of Griffin. They have a nuisance abatement program to where in situations like that, because if you remember, they tore down Fairmont.
Yep.
Well, some of those houses over there near Fairmont for that whole new development and stuff that they're doing over there. But they did the houses over there off of D.F. Fuller, the shotgun houses. And they didn't let the people go back to the Roseview apartments like they said they were. And a lot of the people with the houses, the apartments that they tore down, they told them they would give them vouchers so they'd be able to move back. But all they did was essentially set aside maybe 5 apartments for people who had low income. And the rest they set at the market base, you know, for the rent.
Okay, and that's going to displace people. That's going to get black people to learn.
Yeah, it already has.
When Atlanta did that and sent them to Clayton County, when they were trying
the outskirts. They're trying to send everybody to Barnesville.
Yeah, and these were our people. You sent them out. Now the new thing is, I'm going to send you out of state. That leaves a black person, a black mother, mostly single black mom. You got to go into a whole nother state away from family, away from your support system. I don't give a damn about Tombstone. If you want to build Black Wall Street, that's fine. But we're in an economic system where they're going to be owners and renters. You're going to forever be a renter, or you're going to be an owner. There are people right now that are not like in Griffin. If your house was supposedly worth $30,000, they gentrify and they build houses around you that's like 160, 120. Yep. Your property taxes go up.
Yeah, you can't pay the property taxes.
Yeah, and then you lose your home to the investor, and your family has to be displaced, and they have nowhere to go. And you're worrying about building some land from the ground up. There are people who are about to lose the only home they had in their family. You need to be buying properties and teaching people how to save, to pay for their taxes, because that's probably going to be the only capital for a minute that black people are going to have to be able to work with. Because if you got empty land and it's 19 people, and hopefully you keep your money or you don't lose your job, but if you can't pay the taxes on that land, guess what the government going to do? Especially if they really want it for something, they're going to take it.
This is why I say you don't own nothing here. You got to pay taxes. You don't pay taxes on that house, it's gone.
That's what I'm saying. Like, people like, I own a home. First of all, you got a mortgage. I have a mortgage. You still renting because it's not yours till you pay it off. And when you pay it off, you still not own it because you still owe somebody.
Yep.
Oh wait, you gotta pay taxes on your house after you buy it off?
Forever.
Every year.
Forever.
And like, if you look at Atlanta, there are people for 50, 60, 70 years owned a home. They gentrified. These people are on SSI, maybe $700, $800 a month they get. All of a sudden, when they start to gentrify, out of nowhere they go, oh, your property taxes are $6,000 this year.
I just saw a house they were advertising, because I used to live over near Ashby when I was going to Georgia State, and you know that was like the hood. This house is $500,000, $500,000 in this neighborhood, and of course, as they build other ones, they're gonna price those the same because it's in the same area. And then, like you said, the elderly people that have been there forever are just being priced out. There's nothing they can do. They worked hard to own their home or essentially get a mortgage. And still, they're going to end up without it.
Without it. And they spent their whole life toiling, enslaving, just call it what it is, to have something. And it's going to be taken from them.
Yep.
Like, I know it's great for us to buy land and stuff. Like, I want land too. But it's like war. You got to infiltrate and think how they think and be a step ahead. I just feel like sometimes us having this conversation, them talking to white people, they still have advantage to us. Okay, we can have this conversation. I'm not saying we can't have it or she can't have it with her people and be like, oh, let's talk about it. But at the end of the day, money make moves. You got to figure out how to make moves to be in the art of war. Because they still take it to you the day we die, our kids, the day they die, from beginning to end of time. You got to figure out how you can secure some stuff. And we live in a world that you can only secure it with capital.
And that's the other thing that people don't understand. You know, it's you can't keep being on the sidelines. You can't destroy a system from without. You have to do it from within. So you're going to have to infiltrate it some type of way.
And nobody wants to.
Right.
And that's what I get frustrated about us. I'm not having a conversation with the white collective when I know, like, say for instance, when I was still in the clinical setting, people be like, get a black doctor. I'm black and be over here like, soldier, because she black don't mean nothing. Because I've worked with a lot of them who was a status thing. They darn near killed our own kind before the white people did.
She talked about that too.
Serious.
Talked about how the prejudice and discrimination of our own benefits whites. Perfect example, black Republicans and all their self-hate. People like Candace Owens that essentially trying to hand us to our destruction on a silver platter to them.
She's so retarded.
Like, really, like, if we are talking about, I'm not going to be, you will never find me marching about the police if our black police officers or our black judges don't stand up for us in court. Or, you know, your child, if they go to college, you're not choosing a career to enter in to make a change. Why I'm not marching. If you're black and you're sitting on that bench and you're giving another black person more time than the white judge, I'm not marching. We have to infiltrate. You gotta have black architects. You gotta have black police officers who are gonna do what they're supposed to do. You gotta have more people who want to be black teachers, black nurses, and they do it because they have a purpose, not because they only did it to get a certain amount of money
or status. Yeah, exactly.
Or status. After that, you don't care about anybody else. You be like, well, if I work hard, they need to too. When it's all a purpose, we have to learn the art of war. We have to get in and take over. They know that we're kind of off. They're like, okay, they over there marching. They're over there talking, but they're not at the table. They're not in the room. And the ones who are in the room, they're just there to be able to say, I'm a commissioner. I'm a city council. Okay, and what are you voting?
Right. And that's the thing, too, about us. When we back our candidates for office and essentially not holding them accountable. You know, they're the ones that are most accessible to us because they live in the same neighborhoods that we do. We can see them every day going to the grocery store or to a restaurant. Well, pre-COVID for most people, but still, like, that is the person who nerves you need to be getting on every single day to make sure that they have your best interest at heart. And we just don't understand that. We just want to think that we can just put them in there and they're going to speak for us. And at the same time, a lot of these people have their own agendas.
And you'd be surprised what happens behind closed doors. I've seen people in my face say, oh, they be on the front lines, all in TV, all in the newspaper, all on Facebook about, yay, we all together, and then get behind closed doors and do the totally opposite.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of self-serving interests. I didn't know that how much that existed until I worked at the state capitol, and I got to see it every single day. And it really turned me off to politics, essentially.
Yeah, because it's all a game. The not to take over the call, but it's just like I'm just so sick of the same conversation because it's so much that we need to do.
It
For
is a
people
lot.
to understand that, like voting, I'm sick of people talking about everybody vote. We always had a popular vote, but I can't get you to fill out a census.
Yeah.
Fill out the census. I can't get you to vote locally.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a popular vote, but we still don't get who we want to choose. But like, you won't even do local.
Mm-hmm.
If you start, like, I said something about the census. This girl was like, I wish our schools had more. Did you fill out the census? No, I don't want the government to know my business.
I said it before and I say it again. We don't like paperwork.
I won't lie. I used to say that because I didn't know what it was for. I thought it was literally like just to keep tabs on people. But I see now, like, and then when they explain it, they use it for so much more, and I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. They use it for our elected officials. How do you think stuff get gerrymandered to the point where we're written out of districts because they're looking at the numbers? They use it for all types of social programs, different types of fundings and grants that go to different areas. You know, like the CDBG money that comes about, the neighborhood revitalization.
Yeah, the roads, the way the roads, them fixing the roads, your school getting, like all of this. I can't find my child a computer. You probably don't have that problem. If you know somebody feels you might not get it right now, but it affects you if you're gonna stay in the area or you're planning on having kids.
And that's the issue is people don't understand. And I think I'm gonna do this series again. I did it some years ago, but I feel like I need to do it again. It's like I think it's dangerous not to vote, but I also think it's dangerous to be an uninformed voter and not understand the political process and how it affects you directly. And we talked about this before. We were talking about it earlier, how so many times the status quo has been maintained because we don't understand the political process. And we, talked about the example again of getting Barack Obama elected, but not having a Democratic House and Senate together in order to get work done. Like, people don't understand that. And even how your local government affects you even more, and then the federal level, because you're walking outside of your door every day. Yeah. This is where you live. This is what you experience directly. You're experiencing the city police. You're experiencing, the sheriff department. You're experiencing the utilities. And people just don't understand that how important that is.
And it's very important for us to advance.
Right.
Because you can't really fight something or you're going to tell somebody else to have a conversation about something that you don't even know what it's about. You're just talking on emotion. I know that it's bad. Okay, so what we going to do on both sides? I don't know. I want them to fix it. Okay, but like, what we going to do?
Right. You're not taking the matters into your own hand. And I
like,
said to
infiltrate this system. This system ain't going nowhere.
I said
it's not going nowhere.
Somebody said, somebody was talking about utility bills. They were like, elect so and so, and I was like, so why do you think you have to wait on the election to do something about your high utility bills? Like, that is something you can start working on now. Should have been working on, years ago, instead of people continuously posting about it on Facebook, but people just won't take the time.
We're like slumlords. Why are you not calling HUD?
Right.
Like, why are you not putting information to say, as a renter, I have rights. And as a landlord, they have their obligations to me too. Let me go ahead and hold them accountable so they can fix this. Instead of letting somebody convince you, if you fix the pipes in the house, I'll let you move in without doing the down payment.
And a lot of people, again, it goes back to not realizing they have that power. I know I have a friend who she's now, mind you, I don't know a lot of stuff too, but like certain stuff, like even when it came to voting and stuff, I'd be like, yeah, we need to get out and vote. She'd be like, well, what's the point? Girl, I ain't got time for that. I gotta work. I gotta do something. I'm like, you don't realize the power you have, but you don't think it counts. I'm like, you don't realize the power you actually have until we actually like try to use it. And even when it came to things like bills and rent, like, and problems she was having with her landlords and apartments and stuff, I was like, well, you could, literally fight this because it says in your contract. She said, no, I'll just move. Okay.
Like, another thing that bothers me. None of us want to do jury duty. I love duty. Like SpotterCon discussion page. I think I'm in there, but I've learned how to sit and listen. Even if it pisses me off, I listen.
Right.
That ups me. I know how they're thinking. I know how they're moving. I know how they feel.
Right.
Let me take notes with that. Because what I learned is some of us, we're in jail. We be the first one to say, let me figure out how not to get in jury duty. Jury duty in court, when we talk about the system, it's designed to put someone in jail.
And racial equality. That's
I sat there and the judge afterwards, he talked to me. He was like, you think outside the box? Yeah, because what you're not going to do, I might be a juror, but you're not going to tell me what law, what you picked that goes with keeping this person guilty.
Right.
That's the only thing I need to consider. Right. I'm sorry. You're going to have to give me a rest of it. You can't just tell me how I'm supposed to judge this case. According to what you decided for me to choose. And I was probably like 1 out of 2 people who were Black.
Oh, wow.
That was on the jury. Like, we got 2 people off because they didn't deserve to be in jail. But they were getting ready to go to jail because even the people sitting there was like, well, the judge said so. And then we were like, yeah, but he said that, but this is what happened. It took somebody saying something to go, oh, wait, let's tell the judge to clarify. And then he clarified. They're like, well, he didn't say that the first time.
Right.
Infiltrating the system. I mean, I'm going to keep reading the book. Yeah, but I just feel like, we need to start just engaging and not always segregating and listening to exactly what they're saying and without being emotional going, let me analyze what they just said. Now, how can I play and use this to my advantage?
Right. And that's
one thing.
Like I said, we have to be strategic in our planning and implementation, and people don't understand that at all. They just, fly by impulse and emotion and not really understanding how that works. But this was a good discussion today.
Well, quick question, since y'all did bring it up. How do you get picked for jury? I have never been picked for jury duty, and all my friends have gotten jury duty letters, and I'm like, well, dang. They ain't never called on me. And I used to want to do it. They would complain. I'm like, I want to do it. It's time off of work. And you might be in a jury. I mean, I used to be interested in law, but I guess it's just randomly they pick citizens.
Well,
it's not essentially
random.
Yeah.
But they asked you a group of, you talking about what they asked you to do jury?
People be thinking it's voter registration. That's why a lot of people don't register to vote. But actually, it's through state databases of names, your driver's license,
owning homes, properties, all this type of stuff.
Right. It's not just based on being registered to vote.
And then once they pick you, they ask you a series of questions to see if you'll support their stance.
Right. You don't necessarily get chosen.
Yeah. Like if you really want to infiltrate, you have to be able to. You have to be smart enough to go in there and answer the questions to make them think or persuade them. Like, yeah, she'll be non-biased. But it needs to be a learning experience for every Black person. It irritated me. I went for a whole week. That whole week, I saw so many of us drop out because they were just making up stuff not to be on the jury. Oh yeah, I hate police officers. I'm going to tell you, I have issue with them. And they be like, oh, but we can't. You gone.
Like, oh, I love police. Back the blue. Let me get on there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But it's a learning. I told people that everybody should. If you get picked, don't convince to get put out.
You need to see
realize why so many of us are in prison.
Yeah, you need to seem real neutral. You can't be too pro this, too pro that.
Well, it depends also what they look. Well, no, because one of them can strike it even if they pick one side wants you. You're right. I think
Like if you have a bias that favors one side, they might pick you, but then the other side can cancel you out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that can happen too. But the problem is we don't put ourselves in a position to even be able to make up a lot of the majority on jury cases for the reason that we don't want the government tracking us, type stuff. So,
but then some kind of way we want that same government to fix our problem.
Oh, and you don't want a government tracking you, but you got a cell phone. You got a smartphone.
And they,
I mean, you're in the system regardless.
They just walking to the
fire stick and cable because you can talk into the cable remote. You got all this stuff.
They just tracked you walking to your mailbox. They just tracked you driving to McDonald's.
They can track you through.
You just went to Walmart. We have coupons for you.
Right. Rate your visit to Kroger. How was it?
Yeah.
Y'all, this was a good discussion today. I had to unleash Monique in the last 30 minutes.
I was waiting because I was just like, I'm not going to say nothing because
I was like, she way too quiet. But this is what we have to understand. This is a group of open discussion. We're not all going to see eye to eye and agree with each other on everything. That's what makes it more fun to be able to agree to disagree, and debate, these different topics.
No, because I know some people probably like, what is wrong with that girl? To deal with them so much. And like I said, sometimes that's a privilege and sometimes it irritates me.
Yeah.
But I have the privilege to have to infiltrate whether I was chosen or not.
Right.
To know that this is something I already knew. And we gotta, like you were saying, be strategic and face it differently.
Right. People always ask me like, well, how do you get all this information about such and such? I read, I attend the city and county commission meetings. Like, it's not hidden. It's there for the world to see, but they're counting on you not to show up.
We're actually blessed right now because one of the things my cousin thought was so funny, but I watched Spalding County Court. And I was so mad because this young boy, he pleaded like NOLO. And I was like, oh my God, why did you even do that? Where are your parents? Don't waste your NOLO. Just say not guilty. It was like a speeding ticket or something. And I know a lot of us be like, I'm not going to plead not guilty. Yeah. Well, first of all, the cop wasn't there.
Exactly.
So by law, you're right to have to throw it out. But you said NOLO, and you walked away on community service and a fine. To me, that's like semi-slavery. So now the city is going to get paid due to you not realizing your rights, right? But it's an eye-opener because I feel like if you watch it, you learn these things and you learn what's happening in the courtroom, you can teach your kids or your family members or whatever. Right. A lot of people don't want to do that because it seems boring or you have to think.
Right. Boy.
Look, y'all, I'm not crazy. I'm just a real passionate girl. Y'all forgive me.
I feel like we did. First of all, we need the men. We also need our Caucasian friends to find time to chime in. I know Sharon be trying.
Yeah, that would help.